Is the video games industry too secretive? That's the question we're here to answer, and, well, maybe answer, hopefully just discuss. Yeah. I'm here back fresh off a holiday and being lazy and sunning himself. Mr. Gareth Evans, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
You're not as tanned as you once were last time, but...
It was way too hot in Menorca, so I had to apply the sunblock like very copiously in order to stay safe. Literally, so that's why I'm whiter than usual.
Well, there we go. And I'm me, Henry. You've been stuck with me for the past week, but now we're back as a team.
We're going to talk about secrets, and we've got the answers, but we might not tell you because it's a secret, right?
Yeah, I mean, let's say that it's not because we're too stupid to figure it out.
I'm right back on form, you can tell.
But the reason this discussion was prompted was because a chap on Twitter by the name of Matt Piscatella?
Piscatella,
man. Piscatella.
Don't you watch the Orange is the New Black?
No, but I feel like it might be Piscatella.
No.
You know, it's got the double L like in Spanish.
Yeah,
is
it's
an A.
true. He's American, Matt Piscatella. He's from the MPD group, is it? He's an industry analyst anyway, for sure. Yeah.
So he put out a tweet kind of suggesting that the games industry should take a similar approach to the way Disney do it with their Marvel movies and just throw out, okay, here's half a dozen movies, when they're coming out, look forward to them, get excited.
Yeah.
So the tweet said, imagine if instead of trying to keep everything such a secret all the time, the video games industry instead followed Disney's example with Marvel announcements, while also following Marvel's rejection of, now this is the word we struggled with, homogeneity.
Homogeneity.
We're going to say homogeneity.
Homogeneity.
It basically means things are the same. We can't say it, but we know what it means.
Is that a Marvel rejection of homogeneity?
Someone's going to misread that and be, Marvel's rejection of homosexuality. What? Then he carries on with a second tweet, which was, the timelines and methods used to announce many games today is a remnant of the time when maximizing physical pre-orders was the primary determinant of a game's sales success. Those days are long gone.
So a game can do well regardless of how many physical pre-orders it gets these days, because the industry's different. Mainly because, firstly, physical isn't a huge thing, and games have huge tails. You look at the case of like The Witcher 3, that didn't do well because of its physical pre-orders. That wasn't the primary determinant of it doing well. GTA 5 is a game that still sells very well to this day, always in the top 10. There's so many games that sell well years after it gets released, and it's nothing to do with the pre-orders, and that's why they do this, according to Matt Piscatella.
Yeah, and that's not necessarily entirely accurate. Like, it's his opinion, I do think it's very valid, but the secrecy thing's an interesting conversation. My first thought, and there's some other tweets, because he got several replies, and I'll read those out in a sec, but my first thought is that Marvel's approach and Disney's approach to just being able to, like, here's 5, 6, 7 movies, they're coming out over the next 3 years, this is what you need to expect. I don't know how many publishers, and certainly not how many developers, would be able to do that and say, okay, we've got all these different things in the pipeline, because most of them are operating on a one game at a time kind of quota almost, because they physically can't do any more because they've got everyone working on it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, they can announce like dozens and dozens of Marvel movies per year, because that's how many they produce. For a games company producing one game per 6 years or 5 years or whatever, there's a lot more riding on that one game than there is on like any one particular movie, that's for sure.
Exactly. Maybe a publisher like EA, someone huge who do pump out loads of stuff, they could probably put out like a slate like this, but really it's just going to be the annual releases, which always come out at the same time anyway. So it's like, all right, so next year you can expect FIFA, Madden, and Call of Duty.
Oh, we know that.
No, not Call of Duty, Battlefield. It's like, you know what you can expect the year after? FIFA, Madden, and Call of Duty. Like, it's just the same.
Announce the next 10 years ahead.
Yeah, like, because nothing's going to change. But anyway, there's several different tweets back, most of whom weren't in agreement. A lot of people did agree with it. It got a fair few likes and retweets and whatnot, but there are a few people disagreeing.
Yeah, well, we're here to generate discussion, right? So we're not here to just agree with everyone. We're just here to look at all the points of view and to see, which one resounds with us.
So there's one guy here who had a comment about the idea of announcing a game too early. So if you lose all the secrecy and devs just tell you, oh, we're working on this right now, that's going to be years before the game ever even comes out. So this comes from @com_Raven. Would it really though? I'm not sure I see the value in knowing unannounced Naughty Dog game will come out in winter 2022, 3 years in advance, to be honest. I like the trend of the last few years of mostly announcing games when they are only a few months out and you can show stuff. Ideally, I like not having a long wait between the reveal, the announcement, and then it comes out. But that it never goes that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's always nice to get a game announced and then 3 minutes later be playing it. Fallout 4 springs to mind. It's a very exciting time when a game gets announced and it's like, oh, in a few months' time you'll be able to play it. It's great. It's a great feeling. However, other people want to know about games years in advance and want to know, there's a certain benefit to the games industry for keeping these secrets and announcing in their own ways, so they can build the hype, they can build the expectation, right, and get a really good response when they announce. But the reason that they do that is because that during production, games can change so much. The games industry is different to the movie industry. Games development is a iterative process. You might, if you announce too early and you announce certain features, then you might disappoint people when they don't arrive.
Yeah, exactly. Like, game I've been playing very recently was Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, and that was only announced in the Game Awards, I think, which was in December, and it's now July, so that's like 6-7 months, and it's just out and you can play it.
Now, some people obviously prefer just with like Starfield, for example.
Yeah,
I mean, we've got nothing solid about what's going to be in Starfield. We know it's coming in a few years' time. We know nothing apart from that. Would you like to know it now? Bethesda have changed their tactic in terms of that because of the leaks, and we'll talk about leaks in a bit regarding Jason Schreier and that. But Bethesda, they've announced 2 games, Elder Scrolls 6 now and Starfield, and we know fuck all about them. And what does that benefit does that give us as gamers?
A lot of people will just be happy seeing that Elder Scrolls reveal trailer when it's like, oh yeah, we're working
getting
on it.
Hyped over
that shit really annoys me, because there's nothing that you can say, oh yeah, we're doing it, but don't waste my time with the trailer and pretend hype. It's hype for nothing at that point. But move on now to another one of the tweets back, which is again on the same thing about announcing games way too early, and this is from @Arkham Fantasy. This is basically what Square Enix has been doing with Final Fantasy, and it backfired spectacularly. They announced Versus 13 in 2006. It ended up getting rebooted, moved platforms, and renamed Final Fantasy 15, and didn't get released until 10 years later. Final Fantasy 7 Remake has similar issues, and I think that's totally the case, especially with games like the Final Fantasy games. They're always starting out as one thing, like a sequel to one of the other numbered installments. Then they change, the ideas get too big or too small and become a different entry in the franchise altogether.
But does us knowing about these games change the production at all? Would this have happened anyway if the games were secret? That's my point.
Yeah,
it doesn't make any difference whether we know or not. I mean, it didn't backfire spectacularly because they announced it. That is a moot point. Like, it's our fault that these games got delayed for 10 years. That doesn't work. And some of the best games I've ever played have been released in early access and gone through a feedback process with its fans during the beta stage in the early access, and people can give their opinions about the game. I mean, obviously this is a different point. This isn't just knowing about a game. This is being able to get hands-on a game. But games like Starbound spring to mind and Prison Architect, those are 2 games that went through an extensive early access period, got great feedback from the fans, and ended up as better games because of them, because the fans knew so much information. The fact they were playing the games during the production process and ended up fantastic. So what does that tell you?
Yeah, I think from a developer perspective, they're worried about if they do go public and then talk about things, their production issues become known to the public, and that becomes the talking point. It's like, oh, it's in development hell or whatever. Yeah. But I feel like most gamers will appreciate hearing that information, and it's just, you can spin it. Like, you don't say, oh, we've rebooted development because this mechanic was broken. You just be like, we were revising our gameplay systems to make it better for you, and all that bollocks. Most gamers, especially if it's like a new addition to a franchise, it's already got a fan base, you'll be like, okay, so this is changing, and it gives you something to talk about and something to work with until you get some actual gameplay trailers or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I prefer honesty over everything else, rather than secrecy. I prefer people to be honest. If they're having issues, people will understand, right? You just got to explain what the issues are. People are sympathetic to that, but I don't think they get that in the industry.
There's another guy here called @LuckySocks101, and he argues about first party stuff remaining secretive, saying, I think things need to be secretive if they're first party. Next gen for sure. Why? Because then you're giving away aspects of your console that can be copied and in some instances enhanced by your competitors. That just increases cost time and money. It's not entirely relevant to the original tweet, but I do think it's a good point for console developers like PlayStation versus Xbox. They should be keeping their stuff secret, I think, because then they are in direct competition with one another, and if one comes out with something really early, it's like, oh, we're going to do this, the other will just be like, okay, we're going to do that too, and we're going to try and do it better.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a case for keeping secrets, because I think a prime example was a game called Donut County, which was announced like before it was released, obviously, a lot of information and gameplay and stuff, and it was cloned and copied by a free mobile game manufacturer and released before Donut County even came out, and they saw their asses big time. And that's a good case for keeping things secret so that your competition doesn't copy you and release it before you bloody do.
Yeah, playing it close to your chest can be a benefit and keep you safe and secure. A good chunk of these comments were about how game development and film production are fundamentally very different, and the way we consume them are very different. So at Nintendo Dad says, game development is a lot more complicated and time consuming than movie development. Not sure why people have this take. Then at Peter420, well, I think that actually says 420, so it's not a 0, so we can get away with it. I prefer games to be announced less than a year from release, as opposed to years in advance, kind of what we said earlier. Plus, movies are a different form of entertainment. Looking at Marvel's lineup, it's so far ahead that you simply don't know how that's going to play out. Prefer gaming to stay as it is. And that is one of the criticisms that some people have of the Marvel way of doing it. We're like, oh, all the way in 2024, we're going to have this new movie. That never bothers me, because the way they've always done it is they're always spinning multiple things at once, and it's the way they've built their universe and how all of them then inform each other. He's absolutely right when he says preferring things to be announced just a year before release, as we said earlier. And movies just are different. They take less time usually. Average movie production cycle is probably 2 years, I'd say. Game production's 3, 4, 5 if it's a brand new one.
Yeah, if you're talking pre-production, you're talking writing and concept art and stuff. You could talk 5, 6, 7 years.
Especially for like a brand new title. Games like a FIFA or a Call of Duty or whatever, they have a much quicker turnaround. For your average game, it's way longer. And there's also more money in it, because a film ticket, I mean, it's more expensive than it ever has been, to be honest, but that's 10 to 15 quid realistically. Video games like 40 quid, 50 quid, that's going up and up too. So there's more money at stake.
And talking about secrets in the industry and how companies try and withhold information from journalists to stop them from ruining things, and how they like to be in control of the information. We've got a couple of instances from the past here where information was leaked and people weren't happy. So first off, in 2011, Eurogamer leaked the announcement of Borderlands 2, and obviously Gearbox CEO Randy Pitchford, as you can imagine the kind of person he is, he wasn't happy. And his quote was, "I have long maintained that we will do more with Borderlands. Shoddy journalism is not an announcement." That's what he said back in the time. He said it was shoddy journalism to be leaking a game announcement.
I mean, the entire job of a journalist is to report information. So if he's reporting this leak, you can argue and, oh, maybe he shouldn't have, but he is reporting information. He is doing his job.
Big gamer publishers seem to think, or historically, games news outlets used to be just like marketing arms. They used to just like feed them previews of games so that these journalists could write a positive spin on an upcoming game, and that was used to generate hype and to lead to sales. That's not how it is anymore, okay? They've got YouTubers calling out all sorts of shit. You've got Reddit sharing loads of negative information. You've got to keep your sheets clean now, Randy. This is how it is. And games journalism is not how it used to be. However, there's this one instance when the website Trusted Reviews had to pay $1.3 million to Rockstar parent company Take-Two for an article that they published in February of that year containing information from allegedly confidential corporate documents relating to Red Dead Redemption 2. The article contained a list of bullet points that claimed, among other things, that you'd be able to play all of Red Dead 2 in first person, which ended up being true, and that the online component would have a battle royale mode. That was all leaked in this document. So they had to take down the article. They were made to pay $1.3 million for sharing this info, and they issued an apology which said, "We published an article that was sourced from confidential corporate document. We should have known that this information was confidential and should not have published it. We unreservedly apologize to Take-Two Games, and we have undertaken not to repeat such actions again." Is this right though? This is bullshit. This is just journalism, right? If you learn something, whether it's confidential or not, like, by what law is this confidential?
This we should have known bollocks. I'm like, you did know. You knew that there would be a risk in doing it, and you chose to do it anyway because it's your journalistic, nature.
I think that whole thing's a farce. Like, what protects that information? Is it a secret? Is it a state secret? Is like
what is the law that's broken here.
Yeah, I don't know how they ended up paying it, but they've decided to pay £1 million, which is $1.3 million, to charities chosen by Take-Two Games. So Take-Two didn't profit from it, but there you go. That's something that happened based on secret information.
Yeah,
I should look for someone spilling secret information on me and sue them for 1.
Yeah, just start spreading fake rumors about yourself and then sue them for propagating.
Just like random information, you get loads of money off. But anyway, there was a quote from Jason Schreier back in May 2018, and he was talking about For Honor, and he said this: before For Honor was announced, someone sent me a whole bunch of details on it. It was codenamed Hero, it was a Ubisoft's big IP, and I didn't know what to do about that. I talked to Stephen about it for a while, which is his boss, Stephen Totilo, and eventually we decided to sit on it after the game was announced, mostly leak-free. Sometime after that, I was talking to a developer on the game who was like to me, man, it was one of the best moments of my life just getting to see that reveal, knowing that it hadn't been leaked out before, and knowing we got to surprise and delight everybody. And he goes on, the fact that spoiling the surprise just for the sake of giving information to people that they'll get anyway might really ruin people's day who didn't deserve the day to be ruined. I really like things not to be spoiled, like at E3. I like to watch E3 and not to be spoiled, and to get the information. Like you think about the God of War announcement back in 2016, right? That was a huge announcement at E3 in the theater, and we saw it in Making Kratos documentary. It was a pivotal moment in the development of that game, and it led to increased sales, increased hype, people getting really excited about it, and the game did really well. You know, that was a contributor to the game doing really well. So what he's saying here is that these devs are putting their heart and soul into things, and they're getting really disappointed by these leaks, and they're getting their hearts broken. So this is why Jason Schreier doesn't do it so often. Maybe it's something to do with maybe getting sued for $1.3 million too. But
I think some game developers see journalists as their enemy, and I really don't think that should be the case. That journalists should be your way to get good press for your game. If you make a good game and you show them a good time, butter them up a little bit, not bribe them or anything like that, but show that you're passionate about whatever you're doing. They'll then feed that to the public, which will then look good on your game and benefit its sales. And I think when people like Randy Pitchford are demonizing the journalist for leaking it, you're forgetting that information usually comes from inside and comes from a developer who you work with and employ. Exactly. They're the problem with
the source of the leak.
Yeah, exactly. They're the ones you should be mad at, not the journalists doing their job as a journalist, Well, I think that's all we've got to say on the matter of video game secrecy in the games industry, but let us know what you think. Do you think that games should stay secret and then you can just have that surprise announcement, but maybe you have to wait a little while? Or would you rather have a game announced and then boom, 3, 4, 5 months later, it's in your hands, it's on your system? Let us know down in the comments below. Make sure you leave a like on this video if you've liked what you've seen. Hit that subscribe button and the bell to stay notified whenever we go live again. If you do like the content we make and want to help us make it, go on over to patreon.com/prettygoodgaming and check out the rewards you can get for supporting us over there. This has been very quick.
Doing well, man.
Jesus.
You've been practicing.
Well, I had to do it on my own all last week,
while I was away.
so I fucking did it in front of the mirror. You are a winner. You could do this. Anyway, I've been Henry, he's been Gaz. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.